Hi, I'm Mike Beliveau. Today we're down in my messy office, and we're going to try to answer the question, are these cap and ball sheriff's models, so-called, are they historically correct? Do they exist in the period, or are they just modern fantasy guns? So let's take a look and see. Now, before we can answer the question of whether or not they are period guns, we really need to define our terms. So, what exactly is a cap and ball sheriff's model? Now, certainly, cap and ball sheriff's models are short-barreled cap and ball guns. And I think it's fair to say that all cap and ball sheriff models have shorter barrels than the standard models. But not all cap and ball guns with short barrels are sheriff's models. We've got the snubbies, right, like this guy. They're better known as Avenging Angels in the day, and nobody calls these sheriff's models, even though they have a short barrel. So, what is it that constitutes a cap and ball sheriff's gun? This is my definition of it, which I think is a fair definition. A cap and ball sheriff's model is a full-sized Navy or Army size revolver that has a shorter barrel than normal and that has still a functional associated loading lever and rammer, right? Which, this guy right here. And that's one thing that we do not typically see on these Avenging Angels or Snubbies, is a loading lever, right? They have not shortened them. So, to me, that's what constitutes a sheriff's model. Now, there are other short-barreled revolvers that have a loading lever and rammer. There are the police models. Both Remington and Colt made police models, and there are replicas of those. But they're not made on the full-size frame. Even though they're a .36 caliber gun, they're both made on pocket-size frames, both the Colts and the Remingtons. In fact, the Remington has a frame that is unique to the police model, which is about halfway between a pocket model frame and the standard Army and Navy and belt model frames. It's smaller than a belt model, slightly bigger than a pocket model, but still not a full-size gun at all, even though it does have the associated ejector rod. So that's what I think a sheriff's model is. And we primarily know them as the Remington New Model Army with a cut-down barrel, or the Colt Navy or the Colt 1860 Army with cut-down barrels. You can find both of those on the market right now. They're typically known as sheriff's models. Now the question is, did they have them in the 19th century? And we know that they had cut-down guns. In fact, they had many of these Avenging Angels. But did they have a sheriff's model? Did they have guns that had both a cut-down barrel and a shortened loading lever and rammer? And for a long time, I thought the answer to that was no, to be honest with you. I liked them for the same reason that most people these days like them, because they're a handy size. And I think that's why most modern shooters like the cap and ball sheriff's models. Not that they're trying to recreate a specific look or anything. So, when I finally got around to seriously asking the question, are they period? The catalyst for that was actually the Captain Schaefer gun. And I think a lot of you have seen my Captain Schaefer Navy model. And it's a laser engraved Pieta 1851 Navy with a 4-inch barrel. And you might think that's a fantasy gun, but in fact, it was based off of an actual original 1851 Navy that belonged to Captain Schaefer. And it was a few years ago sold through Rock Island Auctions, and I've got a copy of the listing here. So we know that that was a real gun. Not only that, we know that that was made by the factory that way. It wasn't just hacksawed off by some local blacksmith. So that tells us that those guns did exist. Now, how many from the factory? I don't know. Though I do know that if you showed up at Colt with money in your hand, they would make you just about anything you wanted. You know, if you wanted a half-inch barrel, they'd probably make it, as long as you were willing to pay. So, how many more of those are out there? I don't know. But I decided to go looking on the internet for examples. And here's what I found. So as it turns out, examples of sheriff's model type Colts are pretty easy to find. You can find them everywhere. Now, most of them were probably turned out by local gunsmiths, but that's fine. They were there. They were there in the period. I have yet to see an example of a Remington so configured. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't have them. You know, it's just like the absence of a fingerprints and a murder weapon doesn't mean that body's not dead, right? It didn't mean it didn't get murdered. So all it means is that we haven't found one yet. And given the prevalence of the Colt examples, I'm thinking there must be some Remington examples around. Now, when I've asked that question before, what people have sent me have been a buttload of police models. And believe me, the police model is different. It is a sub-size frame specific to the police model. But I've yet to see an actual example of a new model Army or a new model Navy that was cut down to sheriff's length. So if any of you have an example of that, period example, send it to me, because I'm looking for them, and I'm quite sure they're going to be out there. But, you know, in a nutshell, if you own one of these and you're wondering if it was period correct, it is. So I think that you can use it with no qualms at all in reenactments or, you know, anything you want. And if being period correct matters to you just psychically, well, then that should be a load off your mind, because I think these babies qualify. So that's it. Just a little short hit. See you next time. Until then, bye.